Buzz with Jess Lujan.
Good evening, Guam. I'm Jess Lujan. Welcome to this edition of The Buzz. My guest this evening was supposed to be former senator, businessman, and developer Al Israel. But in the last minute, I got a call from his family, and they won't let him out of the house. Said, "How dare you go on TV? You're staying home." So, I happened to go outside of our studios, found an individual that was trick-or-treating one day early, had a mask. I said, "You know what? You kind of look like former Senator Al Israel. Can you sit in his place?" And he said, "Okay, as long as you pay me." I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, we'll see how you do tonight, and then we'll consider conversation." So, Mr. Imposter, how are you doing tonight?
I was called the gadfly by one of the best and most intellectual senators on this island, and I'm referring to Senator Richard Titan.
Okay.
He is the philosopher of the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. He was the intellectual and the man I most admire in politics.
There we go.
And he called me the gadfly.
There we go. It was part, of course, the Berdalio title when they first ran for governor, the first elected gubernatorial election back in '70, I think it was. Senator, I asked you to come here because I read some of your articles, and then when I was serving in the legislature, you often stop by my office, drop off some articles regarding some of the things that I was introducing and things like that. And thank you for your support at that time for those particular pieces of legislation. But as like yourself, I'm not a fan of big government as well. We talked about this in a constricting economy such as we're having right now. You're in the industry, or Mr. Israel is in the industry. You're his sit-in. Tourist numbers, yes, are climbing, but their expenditures are down. As one that is familiar with the industry, tell us about the way government operates, most especially in a constricting economy.
I have 7 points.
Okay.
7 points I'd like to nail on the walls of every government office. The first one is the biggest economy killer is the government. Believe it or not, the New York Times newspaper, the most liberal, the most socialistic newspaper you'll ever find, finally came up with this headline just 2 weeks ago.
Says the biggest
and it says the biggest economic killer is our government. See, I don't know whether they can vote. So they agree with me, or I agree with them. Second, private enterprise. When private enterprise invests $100,000 in an industry, it creates one full job for the rest of the life. So for every $100,000 invested by an entrepreneur, it creates one job. Let's take the city of Pomona, with a population of 120,000, has an operating budget of $140 million. GovGuam, with a population of 150,000, has a budget of $500 million that they collect locally, $500 million. And the federal government comes in and spends $1.5 billion on our island every year.
That's a total of $2 billion.
A total of $2 billion for an island of 150,000. Pomona, with 120,000, has 143 million budget. Something is wrong somewhere in the math. Third, we need a part-time legislature. And a legislature that would only deal with public safety and public health. As it is right now, the legislature is trying to regulate our lifestyle. They want us to drive Cadillacs. It's none of their business what kind of cars we should have. It's none of their business that they should get involved in morality. If it's not a public health issue or a public safety issue, they should close shop. And this is why I favor a part-time legislature, meet twice a week. Third item, we have autonomous agencies. They've given all the powers and no control. There's no control or supervision on this autonomous agency, or the legislature has oversight on them. But I've seen it with my own eyes, where the senators ask this autonomous agency to produce their records or to justify their work, and they just thumb their noses at the legislature. And the worst ones are GPA, Guam Power Authority, GIDA, Economic Development, and the GIAA, the airport. GIDA is not enforcing the conditions of the qualifying certificate. They're not enforcing the prevailing wage rate. They're not enforcing the profit sharing. They're not enforcing so many items that is in part of the qualifying certificate and part of the law. GIAA, the airport, is out competing with the public enterprise. They're leasing, they've got a lot of sweetheart deals, and I'll be honest, I wish I can get part of that sweetheart deal from the airport, but I'm persona non grata. They rented land, commercial land, at 4 cents a square foot per month.
That's a pretty good deal.
It's even get better. And this 4 cents rental is not collected now. It's paid in full 15 years from now.
Oh, you got to give
it's deferred.
You got to give the business an opportunity to thrive, right?
Well, and then their leases with the tenant has been changed 4 times, always to the benefit of the tenant, none for the benefit of GIAA, the airport. And lastly, GPA. GPA is an entity to itself. They raise prices whenever they want to. They always use the fuel as their excuse, and yet the fuel prices on the 55-gallon oil has remained steady for the last 3, 4, 5 years, and yet it keeps going up and up and up. Now they've gone ahead and built their White Elephant Palace. I call it their White Elephant Palace in the outskirts of Mangilaw, on the back road to Anderson, inaccessible to the public. But they don't care about the public. They want their big palace. Their palace is going to cost $25 million. When you add their fixtures and their moving costs, it'll come to $30 million. But when you repay the $30 million that they're borrowed, it'll be a total repayment of $60 million. And where was that $60 million going to come from? From you and I, the ratepayers. We have to pay more just for that. So I think let's stop for there right now.
Our power rates will definitely have to go up. Anyway, Kimosabe, we'll be right back, okay? Be right back, pay some bills, come back with the Ysrael imposture tonight.